Greetings, mortals, and welcome. Please present your tickets for validation. Thank you. Your existence has been acknowledged, and you have been granted access every Thursday and Friday. You will be accompanying your guides, Krista and Brandy, along with a world-renowned guest. They will be exploring an intriguing tendril of what humans refer to as reality each week, as they strive to advance you further down the path to the truths of your physical earth and what lies on the other side. Remember to please keep your hands and feet in the vehicle at all times, and do not exit until the craft has come to a complete stop.
Hey, happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday.
How you doing?
I'm good. I think it feels like I've been on here all day again because I got off work early today and I called up, BMR, and I'm like, hey, I looked at what you got coming up on the show today. I said, do you have anybody on? I said, it just so happens I'm off work, right? And he's like, yeah, hop on. And Tex was happy because he was ready to go to bed. And so I took Tex's place today. So we had, a really good show today about Alaskan cryptids. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool.
But, and then here I am again. It just feels like this is my home.
Right. I understand the feeling. Tomorrow night, we actually get a break.
I know. And that's what we were talking about right before the show. That's why I haven't said hi to everybody, but I'm going to say hi right now to everyone. Chris and I both have daughters who are participating in marching band in high school. So it just so happens Chris and I, we have football games that we have to attend tomorrow evening. So we will not be available, but we have Tex. Well, we're just going to say Beards and Bandanas is invading our show.
Yes. So it should be interesting. No, it's Balds, Beards, and Bandanas.
Balds, Beards, and Bandanas, because the blondes aren't there. So the balds. Yeah.
Balds.
Yeah. So it would be blondes, beards, and bandanas. If we were there.
But the three that are invading are bald.
Well, there you go.
So there you go. Well, they are.
Yes, you're right. They are.
So anyway, you guys will be stuck with the baldies tomorrow night.
The baldies.
Don't tell them we said that.
They're in chat.
I see BMR is. And he's one of them.
Right.
So anyway, it'll be fun though. And we appreciate everybody tuning in tonight, and tomorrow night, and just a lot of good stuff coming up. Tonight we're going to talk about Mothman, but before we get to that, we got other things to talk about, don't we?
Yes, because we're time is winding down quickly for these things. And so we really want to get the information out there, keep it fresh in your mind. On October 26th, we are holding a special event at Ray County Museum in Richmond, Missouri. It's going to be a fantastic all day and all night event. Well, pretty much all day. I'm going to say all afternoon, all evening. What we're going to do is we're going to start off the afternoon by having a little bit of a cryptid 101, a paranormal 101. Our good friends, Greg Ogle's Paranormal Paul is going to be there. We have our friends from After Dark Paranormal, which are going to be there and be speaking. And we're going to just talk all afternoon about the stuff we love, all the weird stuff. That's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about all the weird stuff. That evening, we are going to feed you a nice pasta dinner. And then after that, we're going to ghost hunt all night long. Yes. If you can't come to the night portion, don't worry. You can come to the day portion for the very low price of $15 per ticket. And if you want to do the whole shebang with dinner and the overnight ghost hunt, it's $65. And right now, I've looked at a lot of stuff. You cannot get that for $65. You just can't.
Nope.
Especially not for a location of this caliber. And, this place has been proven to be haunted. It's for me, it's a great starter location. If you've never ghost hunted before and want to, this is a great place to start. Any more information that you need, just go to Eventbrite, look under Blondes and Booze, and it should be the first event that pops up.
And it's also pinned to the top of the chat.
There you go.
Yep. And then the next thing, that.
All right. So we as a group, Blondes and Booze, Paranormal Paul, we decided to do a little ghost hunt. Just so happens that we have one space available. So we decided we're just going to give that ticket away to someone. We have one ticket. Now, the way you enter to win is you share out Blondes and Booze, you share out Paranormal Among Us, and then you tag either Krista, myself, or Paranormal Paul in your Facebook post, and we will get you entered. Now, the drawing is coming up at August 31st, so make sure you hurry up and do that and get in to win it.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that'll be given away Saturday. And actually, I'll be out of town, and Brandy is filling in for me, and it's going to be on Paul's show, Paranormal Among Us.
Yes.
And so they'll be doing the drawing that night. And also Gary Spike Sr. is donating a walking stick to the winner as well. So that'll be really cool.
Exactly. So, I mean, there's just great stuff. So make sure you hurry up and enter. You've only got 2 days.
2 days. That's it. And thank you very much, T-Bone. We appreciate that.
And we're grateful for Gary Spikes and his donation. So
absolutely.
Thank you, Gary.
Yep. And I have a walking stick from Gary Spikes, and I know you do too. So,
I have two of them.
Well, how did you get two, sister? And I only got one. Okay,
well,
Gary, you're in trouble now.
Because I went to Brown Springs. And he had all these sticks available. It was for the meet and greet. And he had a stick that I think is just too beautiful to use as a walking stick because I'm rough on mine. I'm stabbing the ground and looking at stuff. So I'm kind of rough on mine. But this one was just really unique. And I'm like, boy, I'd love to have that. And he goes, just take it. So that's how I got mine.
There you go. Very cool. Well, he makes some nice sticks for sure. So the winner will also receive a walking stick from Gary. So anyway, excuse me. We had pizza tonight for dinner. What did you have?
Oh my gosh, that's the worst. That is the worst.
I know.
That's one thing I see. I don't like to eat pizza or Mexican or, anything like that before a ghost hunt because I always, and then I have to say, oh, sorry, that was me. Because you're burping all night. You're like, oh, I'm sorry. Or your stomach's swelling. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Was that a demon? No, that was just my stomach. Thanks.
Yep. And actually, if you guys hear growling, my dog's over here sleeping next to me. So.
Is he sleeping?
Yeah, he's right next to me here. So, yeah.
He gets to dreaming, and he's got
dreaming or snoring. It's not a demon, I promise you. It's just Hoss.
It's not coming from my house.
No, it's not. But it's a living being from mine. So. So anyway, tonight we've been doing this show for a couple of years now. And one thing we have never talked about is Mothman.
We haven't. I mean, we've kind of glanced over it, because we always talk about the best known story, and the most well-known story about Mothman. But there are more sightings. There's more stories.
Oh, yeah.
And we kind of want to get everybody's take on what you think this thing really is. Because
we've got all kinds of things to talk about with it. And real quick, everybody's asking where the cat is. The cat is here, and be quiet because I think he's in my room sleeping. I think we might hear him out tonight, but I'm not calling him
the monster.
No.
Don't wake
no,
the monster.
No. He was in my room right before the show. So
Oh my gosh.
I can't say he won't make an appearance. But anyway, back on the Mothman here. We just there's a lot of stuff to it, and I don't even know where to begin because
let's just start with the most famous story. Let's just talk about that one for a minute. Go ahead and read the what you have on that.
Okay.
I mean, because this is when everybody thinks Mothman, this is the one they think of.
Okay. So we'll start from the beginning.
Okay.
All right. On November 15th, 1966, two young couples from Point Pleasant, Roger and Linda Scarberry and Steve and Mary Mallett, told police they had seen a large black creature whose eyes glowed red standing at the side of the road near the TNT area, the site of a former World War II plant. There was a plant there. Linda Scarberry described it as a slender, muscular man about 7 feet tall with white wings. However, she was unable to discern its face due to the effect of its eyes. Distressed, the witnesses sped away, reporting the creature flew after their car, making a screeching sound. It pursued them as far as Point Pleasant city limits. Over the next few days, more people reported similar sightings after local newspapers covered it. Two volunteer firemen who saw it said it was a large bird with red eyes. Mason County Sheriff George Johnson believed the sightings were due to an unusually large heron he termed a shite poke. Contractor Newell Partridge told Johnson that when he had aimed the flashlight at the creature in a nearby field, its eyes glowed like bicycle reflectors. Additionally, he blamed the buzzing noises from his television set and the disappearance of his German Shepherd dog on the creature. Wildlife biologist Robert Smith at West Virginia University told reporters that descriptions and sightings fit the sandhill crane, a large American crane almost as tall as a man with a 7-foot wingspan and reddish coloring around its eyes. The bird may have wandered out of its I can't even talk or read tonight. Migration route and therefore was unrecognized at first because it was not native to this region. Following the December 15, 1967 collapse of the Silver Bridge and the death of 46 people, the incident gave rise to the legend and connected the Mothman sightings to the bridge collapse. What do you think?
I don't think it's a crane.
I don't either.
I honestly don't think that. They're just trying to wrap their head around that story, and that's the closest thing that they could come to what that thing resembles.
Right. I would agree.
But
I don't think it's a crane because you know what? People know the difference between a freaking bird and some weird unknown creature. I'm just saying.
I would know the difference between a bird,
yeah,
and something that wasn't a bird,
right? And a crane, I know like the blue heron cranes that we have here. I mean, they have that long bill, and you could definitely tell it's a crane,
right?
There is nothing Mothmanish to a crane in my book,
right? And the legs are super skinny, and it looks like a bird, a big one, but it's a bird.
Yeah.
I guess to me, it's like I said, it's just people trying to rationalize what they have seen. And they're like, oh, this is it. It's because it's the closest thing they've got to it.
Yeah. Kevin makes an interesting comment here. He says, I believe they are a rare species of a giant owl.
It
could be.
Yeah, absolutely. But what owl are we talking about? Is there a name for it, or is this an undiscovered species that we're talking about?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Because they're most of the depictions are saying that it has bat-like wings.
Yeah.
Which would say, well, no feathers.
I don't know. So let's hear some more here.
Okay,
so let's see. Here's another encounter. And this is right before, it's before the Silver Bridge collapse. On November 12, 1966, in Clendenin, West Virginia, a group of grave diggers working in a cemetery spotted something strange. They glanced up from their work as something huge soared over their heads. It was a massive figure that was moving rapidly from tree to tree. The grave diggers would later describe this figure as a brown human being. And it says this was the first reported sighting of what would come to be known as the Mothman, the elusive creature that remains as mysterious as it was on the night that a few frightened witnesses first laid eyes on it. And then here's another one. Just 3 days after the gravediggers' initial report in nearby Point Pleasant, West Virginia, the two couples noticed a winged creature about 6 or 7 feet tall standing in front of the car that they were all sitting in. And then it talks a little bit about that, what we just talked about.
Okay. All right. So this is one of the hardest creatures for me. One of the, because I don't necessarily know if it's a cryptid. I'm on the fence about this, and I know people are going to look at me strange. But in those stories where where the account is these people have seen them seen it days apart, did they notice any deaths in the area or some type of tragedy or?
So yeah, there's a lot here to talk about. I mean, we're gonna move away from Point Pleasant eventually during the show and talk about other things that where Mothman has been sighted.
But it had been seen several times in that area.
A lot, actually. I mean, like here. Let me see here. Let me find another one. So it says the Gettysburg Times reported 8 additional sightings in the short span of 3 days after the first claims. This included 2 volunteer firefighters who said they saw a very large bird with large red eyes. Newell Partridge, a resident of Salem, West Virginia, claimed that he saw the strange patterns on it appearing on his television one night, followed by a mysterious sound just outside his home. Shining a flashlight towards the direction of the noise, Partridge supposedly witnessed 2 red eyes resembling bicycle reflectors looking back at him. This remains a popular one in the Mothman myths, especially since it allegedly led to the disappearance of Partridge's dog. To this day, some still believe that the fearsome beast took his beloved pet.
Well, that's pretty strange.
Mm-hmm.
That is pretty strange.
And some people claim that it was that this beast was stalking their town.
Again, was it stalking, or did it have a premonition of what was to come?
Right. Oh yeah, absolutely. Let me see here. There's so much here. So it says Dr. Robert Smith, an associate professor of wildlife biology at West Virginia University, dismissed the notion that a flying monster was staking out the town. Instead, he attributed the sightings to a sandhill crane, what we just talked about, which stands almost as tall as the average man and has bright red flesh around its eyes. This explanation was compelling, especially given the number of early reports that had described the creature as bird-like. Some people hypothesized that this crane was deformed, especially if it resided in the TNT area, a name that locals gave to a series of nearby bunkers that were once used for manufacturing during World War II. It has been suggested that these bunkers have leaked toxic materials into the neighboring wildlife preserve, possibly affecting nearby animals. Another theory suggests that the creation of the Mothman was the work of one very committed prankster who went as far as to hide in the abandoned World War II plant where some of the sightings occurred. This theory that when the national press ran with the Mothman story, people who lived in Point Pleasant began to panic. Locals became convinced that they were seeing the Mothman in birds and other large animals even long after the prankster had given up on the joke, if that's what it was. It's worth noting that the Mothman legend bears a resemblance to several demon archetypes found among those who have experienced sleep paralysis. So that's another whole subject to talk about.
if I heard of bunkers that could be possibly leaking something toxic,
Place. Right.
that's the last place I'm going to pull a prank.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to do that.
Right.
And that would be like something. I don't know about anybody else, but I could tell if it's a costume.
Yeah.
I would be able to tell.
Yep. Yeah.
Unless it was hidden in the brush so deep that I wouldn't be able to tell what it was anyway. But if I could see it straight on and give a description of it, I would know whether it was real or not. Just as if I would know if it were a bird. I would know.
Yeah. So I don't believe it's
that's
a
me.
or a bird.
I just don't think it's a bird. I don't think it's a bird because there's too many stories that say that it appears before bad things happen. You know, and so I can't. You know, plus, you know, our friend Jonestead Farms, who comes into our chat quite a bit, she had an encounter. She did. Now, this thing wasn't as tall as a human or taller than a human. It wasn't.
Yep, she was with a couple other people, and they all said it was about 3 or 4 feet tall, if I remember.
Yeah, correctly. About 3 feet tall, and so. So I'm thinking, is this maybe another one? Do they breed? Do they, you know, what's happening here? Because this one was definitely smaller, but what they described with the red eyes, the wings, and the way that it flew, like it just twisted and went up. It didn't even flap its wings. It just twisted and went up. It reminds me of Mothman. Right. So but I don't remember when she told us about it. I don't remember her saying anything about, or hearing anything after about anything tragic. But we'd have to go back to those dates again. Yeah. Yeah, I don't remember anything, and that was actually it was at the LBL, and but nothing. We would have to definitely go back and look and pin that timeline and search back to see if something in that area happened. I mean, it doesn't have to be anything huge, like super huge, but it could be something about, you know, somebody got in a car accident. There was some violence of some sort, you know, whatever. But we would have to definitely research that to see if there is a connection to that night, what they saw, and if anything happened in the near area. Yeah, that would be something to do. That would definitely be something to do. Because I can't. I'm having a hard time with Mothman, like I said, because I'm trying not to go to what I think it is. I'm trying to go around all sides of this thing and see what I think it is. I don't think it's a bird. That's what I can say is I don't think it's a bird. Yeah, I don't believe it's a bird either. You know, I realize that thunderbirds are very huge and things like that. But nobody has ever said they had red glowing eyes. Right. Yeah. So I don't think that it's a thunderbird, even though there have been sightings in all of these areas of thunderbirds. You know, there's been a widespread account of experiences with them. But I'm guessing that we're dealing with something a little bit on the supernatural side here. I would say so too, because what also comes into play, and somebody made the comment about it, and that was somebody we were going to talk about, is Endred Cole. Makes his appearance. He's known as the Grinning Man. And he has a connection, they say, with Mothman. However, you know, they describe him as humanoid, but not humanoid, like a person, but not a person. It's like that. What exactly is that?
Right, exactly. So I'm looking here to find the description of them.
Mhm.
See if I can find it here. I had it up and I X'd out of it on accident. I hate when I do that. Yeah, but it he shows up after the Mothman and kind of like, is he like the Men in Black? Because some people claim that he's part alien, part, human. So what do you think on that?
I personally think that with the accounts of this thing showing up afterwards, I'm thinking it's either curious and trying to figure out what is happening with it. And I can't explain yet exactly why I think that. But I think that's it. I really do, because I believe this is more on the supernatural side. And I think that this other thing is investigating what it's doing, just showing up and seeing what's happening. Or, you know what, they maybe could be connected. It's like one shows up before, one shows up after. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know either. So I don't know. I just found that interesting. So the Silver Bridge collapse, we can talk about that briefly. It says it was constructed in 1928, connected Point Pleasant and Kanagwa, Ohio. Name credited to the aluminum colored paint used. The first I-bar suspension bridge of its type in the U.S. Rush hour collapse on December 15th, 1967 resulted in 31 vehicles falling into the river, killing 46 and injuring 9. Failed I-bar joint and weld identified as the cause. Resulted in congressional passage of National Bridge Inspection Standards in 1968.
So it was a shoddy bridge.
Yeah, there wasn't nothing supernatural, I don't believe, about the bridge collapsing. It just happened.
No, I don't think so either. I don't think that the Mothman created the chaos. I don't think the Mothman, showed up and said, okay, this stuff is going to happen. I'm here now, so something bad, I think they show up as a warning to us.
Right.
Just to let us know, hey, there is something going to happen. You need to, keep a watchful eye. I believe that's what this thing is trying to warn us of. Yeah.
So here's a little more about the bridge. It says that it was traffic was really bad on the Silver Bridge that morning. And this placed a strain on the bridge, which had been built in a time when cars were lighter. The Model T had weighed just 1,500 pounds, a modest sum compared to the 1967 average for a car, 4,000 pounds.
Right.
The bridge's engineers hadn't been particularly imaginative, nor had they been especially cautious while creating this structure. The bridge's design featured very little redundancy, meaning that if one part failed, there was almost nothing in place to prevent the other parts from failing as well. So
yeah, I mean, you've got that. You've got all these vehicles. Plus, there was a lot of them on that bridge. There was a lot of cars on that bridge. And they probably didn't know the exact weight limit.
Right. And you know what, though? There might not have been a weight limit back then from the way they described it, because like back then, the cars, when that bridge was constructed, Model Ts, it said it was only 1,500 pounds compared to the average, So cars were a lot lighter back then. And maybe back then they didn't think of, you know what I'm saying? They didn't think of the cars weighing more over time, I guess, per se. And I find this interesting. I had not heard this. Jose says, from what I read from the book Mothman, the facts behind the legends, when the couples in the car saw the creature, they went from being terrified to feeling sad for it. Interesting.
Well, and you know what? That makes sense. Because if you're dealing with something on the supernatural side, and what I think it is, it would only be natural for a human to feel sad.
Yeah.
Because of what I think it is, that makes sense to me.
Well, here he also says what happened to it is that it got its wing caught on a guide wire, which is why they felt bad for it. Interesting. I hadn't heard that.
Or did it? You know, you have to ask yourself these things. I mean, are they doing it because they're actually, I don't know, just didn't fly right and hit the wire? Or did they do this on purpose to promote a response from you?
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, you know, and apparently this thing was huge. I mean, even in human standards, this thing would be very large.
Yeah.
You and I would be looking up at it for sure.
Right.
If it were standing in front of us. I don't know. I'm gonna tell you what I think it is. That way, when we go through the rest of this, that way everybody will understand where I'm coming from. I think personally that this may be an angel of death.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason why I say that is because it does appear before these things happen. It's kind of like it knows it needs to be at a certain spot, a certain place, a certain time.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about some of these tragedies that happened where he was sighted.
Right. So I think it's more of a warning type thing. I really do. It's kind of like, I'm here. This is going to happen. And I don't know if you would call that like he's not doing his job, because he's kind of warning people. All he's supposed to do is show up when it happens, not before it happens. But it's kind of like it's like they feel remorse or they feel sad for us because they know it's going, they know it's going to happen. So they're just like showing up early going, hey, well, we're here. So guess what? This is what's going to happen. That's what I think. I think it's an angel of death. That's what I think it is.
You believe it's an angel of death?
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's see here. So here, let's talk about this sighting. So I'm gonna read to you, and then we'll just go on down the list here because there's a bunch of them.
Okay.
It says a truck driver who stopped at O'Hare International Airport in Chicago on November 26, 2019, claimed he spotted a person with wings around 7 feet tall standing by a fence while he took a smoke break around 6:30 p.m. He reported his sighting to UFO Clearinghouse, an online source for odd encounters that describes itself as the portal for truth. According to the investigator who took the report, the truck driver said the creature had a wingspan of approximately 6 feet and looked like a demon or a goblin and was solid black. The witness mentioned the creature may have had its back to him and that it was walking with a gait like a bird. He claimed it was flapping its wings as it walked toward the large field that is by the airport runways and disappeared into the night. The witness himself believed he was in the presence of a demon. When the investigator asked if he'd seen anything like it before, the truck driver detailed a similar experience as a child in Mexico, where a solid black winged creature was circling an open field and made a loud screeching noise before flying off into the surrounding forest, similarly to the experiences of those who claim to have encountered the Mothman. So that's one. That's Chicago.
And
that's 2019.
Right. Well, there was a comment that says, when Mothman has been seen at other locations around the country at different times, is he always associated with a pending disaster? I don't recall.
Yeah, see, I don't know if anything has happened
since that particular thing. But then again, like I said, it doesn't have to be this huge major disaster like 9/11. It doesn't have to be that. It could be just a normal passing of a person.
It does say, like, it's like we've got more major disasters we're going to talk about that he's been seen at. So like the next one here, let's see here. Okay. On September 10th, 1978, a group of miners in Freiburg, Germany came face to face with a seemingly creature with glowing red eyes on its chest, blocking the mine's entrance. At first, they thought it was a man in a trench coat, but they quickly realized it was not a coat, but unfurled large black wings. The men remained in the mine entrance, stunned and staring at the creature until it let out a blood-curdling screech that sent the miners scrambling out. About an hour later, the men felt a seismic rumble and witnessed a plume of dust shoot from the mine as it collapsed. If the men had gone to their stations in the mine as usual, the majority of them would have died. It appeared as though what they dubbed as the Freeburg Shrieker saved their lives. What do you think about that one? Saved their lives.
Yeah. Now, that's not a normal story that we hear associated with Mothman.
Right.
About saving lives. But maybe this is what it was meant to do.
Yeah.
Or wanted to do, is to save lives instead of watch them being lost. I don't know. Like I said, one of our friends that is in chat all the time had seen one. That's why we were talking about going back and doing a little bit of research to see if there was anything that happened in the area.
I don't remember anything. I think we would have heard something about it.
Well, we don't have the radio or the news or anything out there. So it's hard to say. And it may have been like a town over or 2 towns over. It could have been somewhere, close.
Yeah.
I just don't think that it has to be this huge major disaster.
Mm-hmm.
I think it could be something that is going to happen and it just appears. And it doesn't have to be big.
Yeah. Okay, so here's another one. Marcus Pools, an American visiting Japan, was out with a friend near the Fukushima plant when suddenly they heard a loud whooshing sound and a terrible screeching. As they looked backwards towards the plant, they saw a figure that they described as large and black. From the distance, it looked like it to be sitting on top of one of the squared-shaped buildings. It sat there for about 5 seconds, then it unfurled a large set of what I could only describe as large black wings. The creature took flight, circling the plant a few times before coming closer to them. That's when I noticed the 2 large red eyes. They seemed to glow from within, and the blood had a blood red hue. They were unblinking. In the 3 to 4 seconds we saw them, we knew that they were looking straight at us. We knew this creature knew we could see it, and it made no attempt to disguise itself. Pools describes an immense feeling of dread that washed over him, and the creature vanished as quickly as it had appeared. It wasn't until Pools was back home in America, hearing on the news on CNN about the devastation of the Japanese earthquake and the explosions at the very same nuclear power plant where he had witnessed the creature, that he realized he may have seen the infamous harbinger of disaster known as the Mothman.
Okay. So you notice in all these descriptions, they're about all the same when they say just wings. Not feathers, not bird wings, not anything saying that it's a bird. They just say wings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's not giving you the bird.
Right.
That's where I don't know. This is a hard one for me because, like I said, there's a lot of stories on it, but there's not a lot of encounters of people I know that have had encounters with them. It's easier when when people I've only had one that's had an encounter, and they said no feathers, but none of these
wings is how they described it.
Yeah, like bat-like wings. And any of these that you're reading me just say wings.
Mm-hmm.
They don't tell me about what type of wings are we discussing here.
Right.
Because if the experiences were saying, hey, it's got feathers on its wings or something, well, then maybe we would have to go look at that crane or a different type of bird or an owl or something like that. Because we may be misidentifying what we're actually seeing.
Right.
So, you would have to really go look at that and investigate and see how that would be, in certain lights, things like that, But we don't have anything to back this up. We just have the stories.
Yeah. Interesting, huh? Here's another one. this one, kind of hits close to home for all of us. It says, during the days leading up to the terrorist attacks on September 11th, 2001, several people reported seeing sightings of a black winged creature flying near the Twin Towers. During the attack, as the second plane hit, eyewitnesses reported a creature flying parallel to the plane. Then in the days that followed, those reporting the creature were allegedly approached by men in black and warned to stop talking about what they saw. Oh. So when the Twin Towers happened, I watched the second tower get hit and go down.
I did too. I
personally don't remember seeing anything, but I wasn't looking for any creatures either.
I know I wasn't either. I was still in shock anyway. My family and I, we were in the midst of moving across country, and we had stopped at a relative's house, and we were in Kentucky. And I was in bed, and my son was basically newborn. He was born August 5th. So a month later, 9/11 happens. So we had a terrible night, and he just was up and down, and he just couldn't sleep. I mean, it was just like he just kept crying no matter what we did, And finally, I got him to sleep, so I was sleeping in a little bit, and it was after 8:00 in the morning, and I had gotten woken up and said that this was happening. And so I immediately jumped out of bed,
Right.
And I don't know what it was. I don't know what was happening, but my son was very pleasant that whole day.
Yeah.
There wasn't a whole lot of crying. There wasn't a whole lot of nothing. He was just, I wouldn't say perfect, but he wasn't like he was that night. You know what I mean? The night before, he wasn't restless, and he wasn't twisting and turning and just causing a fuss.
Yeah. Which
helped, because the emotions I know that were rolling through my body, it must have been tremendous, because the vibration I was giving off was probably crazy, because my anxiety level was on an all-time high. I mean, because we're talking about, I'm taking my family and I'm moving from Colorado to Florida. So that's a big undertaking. And, just for this to happen right in the middle of that, my husband at the time had just gotten out of the military. So we were dealing with the whole stop loss factor that the military put on all military personnel that were getting out. They weren't allowed to get out. They had to report back into the nearest facility. So, I mean, it was a crazy time in my life when this all happened. And, but I did not notice, because I watched it probably 100 times happen and rehappen that day. I mean, it was just a constant loop of those planes going into the buildings. And
I remember this. Wedge says there was a smoke plume from one of the towers that looked to be the outline of a horned head on live TV. I don't remember that.
It was seen later. It was seen later. And to me, it just seemed like pareidolia. I mean, I could be wrong, but to me, it just seemed like pareidolia. That's what it looked like within the smoke. Like I said, I could be wrong, because nobody's an expert. So I don't know. I wasn't there. They did find that later. But during that watching that all day long, over and over and over again, I did not see anything that I would say was weird.
Yeah, and see, I watched it too. I was actually at work, and worked at Lally Brothers Livestock Market, out of all places. And it was during a cattle sale. It was a Tuesday cattle sale, and they ended up stopping the cattle sale, and they come and told us all to go get gas. Do you remember the gas gouging?
Yes. Well, see, where we were at was a military town, so that wasn't happening there.
Yeah. Well,
that wasn't happening. That wasn't going to fly.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it happened in Macon, Missouri, and everybody left, to go fill up their cars, and it was very somber. We kept it on TV, and most of us actually sat in the restaurant part of the sale barn all day and watched that because they canceled the sale, and it was just sad, very, very sad. But I don't remember any weirdness to it. It was just more disbelief that this happened on American territory.
Soil. Yeah, this was on American soil. And like I said, I did not see anything strange in any videos that I remember. But you know what? I probably should revisit it and look.
Yeah. Denise, the way she's been chatting, it sounds like she was actually there for it. And she said it was like nothing you saw on TV, believe me. I couldn't imagine.
Oh, I understand. I've talked to several people we're first responders there. And some of them are the only ones that made it out.
Yeah. And that's something we can talk about after this, because there's some weirdness to some things about the Twin Towers.
Yeah.
But so
and like I said, there is something to that, because like I said, some of these were first responders that made it out.
Right.
That made it. Now, how the rest of them didn't, but they did. Now there's a real question. That's who was looking down on you, who was by your side that you didn't know was there.
Yeah.
All
right, here's another one. It says the Mothman is believed to have been around for the worst nuclear accident in history. Throughout 1985, many scientists and other workers at the nuclear power plant in Chernobyl, Ukraine, claimed to see a huge black bird-like creature with the body of a man flying around the plant. Those who saw the red-eyed beast also reported a series of strange, harassing phone calls and a string of nightmares leading up to the disastrous explosion in April of 1986. On April 26, 1986, the day of the accident, several people saw the huge black bird actually flying around the smoke after the explosion. Even those in the nearby town of Pripyat claimed to have seen the strange creature that became known as the Black Bird of Chernobyl in the days leading up to the disaster. Pripyat was also affected and later evacuated because of the harmful radiation.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Because some people have been in there since this has happened, and yes, they're trying to clean it up. Yes, it is still radioactive. You cannot be in there for long periods of time. If you are granted permission to go in, you go in with respirators, and they give you like a certain amount of time, and they're like, you've got to get out. You can't stay in there. Like, say, if they give you 20 minutes, all you got is 20 minutes to get in, do what you got to do, and get out. So, of course, the cleanup is going to be slow. But there have been some paranormal investigators that have been in there, and they have caught what it looks like is full-bodied apparitions living in some of these dwellings they still have that are still standing.
Yeah. And actually, Josh Gates is one that went there. Do you remember that one?
I do.
You see them there?
I do remember.
He had the full, suit on. He was suited up and stuff. But yeah. They say there's a lot of paranormal activity there. But that was an awful disaster.
It was. Now, do I believe that Mothman showed up there? That would be a big one. I would say absolutely yes. And it seems like this thing is warning them by giving them the terrible nightmares and all of the weird phone calls. And it's like telling you, hey, come on, wake up. Let's go. Let's get out of here. Let's go. And it sounds like that's exactly what it was doing is giving them the clue.
Yeah.
It's trying to tell them, hey, you need to get out.
Yeah. That's the thing. Go ahead.
I was going to say, did they say anything about what they were having nightmares about? Was it about an explosion or family members passing? Or I mean, did it say anything about that?
No,
I'd like to know. I mean,
some people thought it was like I said earlier, the demon of death, because, and it caused nightmares and things like that. So maybe it is a demon.
yeah, or just doing its best to say, look, I'm giving you every warning I can give you, and this is my last resort, is to scare you to the point of realizing that there is a problem.
Right.
But, we as people are not, if it's not knocking us in the forehead, we're not seeing what's happening. We, there was no way, for a lot of people to know that this was going to happen. I mean, it's like, they're going to, if you're inside the plant, I'm sure there are some kind of signs that are saying, hey, this is not working correctly, or, this needs to be replaced, or this needs to be fixed. And we all know things can lead up to a major event. But there's a lot of people in that town that had no clue. They did not know.
Yeah, absolutely. Maddie says, there doesn't seem to be accounts of Mothman attacking people. I believe it's just an omen of tragic events. And then Greg Ogles says, Madeline, which could suggest that the Mothman could be interdimensional.
Oh, well, yeah. But like I was talking about being an angel of death, they can come and go at will. They don't need to travel, Yeah. They don't need to travel that way. They can just come and go at will. But if they're earthbound.
Right. Hold on one second. You put him up. He's scratching me. I got shorts on and Haas is getting his legs going.
Oh, okay.
Scratching me up, so I asked David to put him up for me. Anyway, sorry.
So I mean, there's. I don't think it's a bad entity.
Yeah.
I think it's just one of those that nobody wants to see because of what it represents.
We've got more we can talk about here. You want to talk about some more here?
Yes, let's go.
More instances? Okay. It says the Mothman was spotted at yet another bridge collapse in 2007. Eerily enough, the I-35 West Bridge in Minneapolis, Minnesota was open for traffic in 1967, the same year the Silver Bridge collapsed. Then on August 1st, 2007, a month after the Mothman sightings, the I-35 West Bridge collapsed during rush hour, taking the lives of 13 people with it and injuring 145 more. Reports of the Mothman began trickling in on June 27, 2007, preceding the collapse by a mere month. Many claim to see the humanoid creature flapping its massive wings in the surrounding area and the bridge itself. An Illinois woman witnessed the creepy cryptid while driving just outside of Stewartsville, Minnesota on June 27, 2007, called paranormal radio show host George Norrie from Coast to Coast AM, who BMR was just on with him, and described the creature as having a huge wingspan about the width of a Ford. Another bridge collapse.
Now what date? What year and what date? 2007. What was the day and month?
So the bridge collapse happened on August 1st, 2007. Reports started coming in on June 27th, 2007. Okay,
because I remember when that happened.
See, I don't remember that one.
I do. I do. It was very tragic. Very, very tragic. I mean, I'm just remembering watching CNN and watching all of that stuff in 2007 and seeing it just go. And because I used to watch the news all the time because I did find it interesting and I'd like to know what was going on in the world. And then I figured out, no, I don't want to know what's going on in the world because it makes me sad. So I quit watching it. But this is back when I would watch the news. And I remember that happening, but I don't remember hearing about the stories. Do you think that they were being kept hush hush? Like maybe somebody had a hand in keeping them quiet? Because
Well,
I don't remember the stories coming out until later, like later.
yeah, I don't know him. I don't know. I don't know. I think, I don't know. I think it's legit. I think, I have to agree with Maddie and you. I think, I think he is an angel of death, like comes
A
and
harbinger for sure. A harbinger of death. I'm sure that's its
yeah,
job. That's its job.
right. So there's yet another one. Okay. Goes back to the dog. On November 13th, 1966, in Salem, West Virginia, Merle Partridge heard a loud noise outside of his home 90 miles from Point Pleasant. During an interview in Eyes of the Mothman, he recalled his television making high-pitched whining sound and his dog barking wildly. After going outside to investigate, Partridge was startled by two glowing red eyes that belonged to no animal he'd ever seen before. He also described eerie flashing red lights that seemed to be dancing around. His hunting dog took off after the creature, and that was the last time he ever saw of it. He went out to search for his dogs with friends the next day, but the dog was never seen again. A combination of hundreds of Mothman sightings in the area that year, claims of the red lights dancing over the TNT plant, and electrical interference during those sightings have all led to speculation that the Mothman might have extraterrestrial origins.
I don't know. That I think might be stretching it for me just a hair.
Do you?
Just a hair.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to the dog, well, the dog could have been just like my dogs. It's a hunting dog. My dogs are just special. We're just going to call my dogs special. Anyway, they just follow their nose and get lost.
Yeah.
And that's possibly what could have happened to his dog. Absolutely.
Maddie says the way the Bible describes angels is not the way they're portrayed in movies, TV, etc. The possibility of a Mothman being an angel of death is really not that far-fetched.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The angels only appear to us in a form that makes us comfortable.
Yeah.
Because they're and it doesn't say anything about all angels being female.
Right.
So more of a unisex kind of thing. They're neither male nor female.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what this thing is maybe it's neither male nor female. It's just. But then again, if to determine where is it coming from, is it coming from heaven or is this coming from hell? Because then we know we've got either an angel or a demon.
Or is it coming from outer space?
See, I can't go with that. I can't go with that.
No.
But see, that's just only in my opinion. I mean, I could be wrong. Like I said, there's experts.
Yeah.
But I don't think I don't believe there's an alien connection, only because it shows up when we're when we're going to have some issues. When something is going to happen, this is when it shows up. So I don't think that would be a possibility, because I only believe that only our Father in heaven would know those things. But that's just me. I mean, you have to go with it whichever way you want to go.
I would agree. All right, here's another one. In September 2006, in La Crosse, Wisconsin, a Cherokee man and his son were driving down an isolated stretch of road at night when the Mothman attacked them. In an interview on Monster Quest, he shared with his encounter. He told how the creature flew alongside and then directly in front of the windshield, close enough to touch. They got a really good look at it, describing it as bat-like and fleshy, with sparse hair and red eyes the size of road reflectors. He described the monster's high-pitched screech that gave them vertigo and made them sick to their stomachs. The man's son pulled over and threw up on the side of the road. After returning to the location a few days later in the daytime, all they found left behind was deer carcass they had later blamed on a poacher. So now that goes into another whole realm. Did he get zapped?
But see, it also had a description of more of what we heard from somebody we had that we know that had an encounter.
Mm-hmm.
That goes along with what they were saying that it looked like. That was more of a closer description of what it was.
Right.
But then again, let's talk about the very first one where the people had said they saw the Mothman. The Mothman got caught up in a wire and it made them sad. Is this thing, or can this thing project emotions? Can it make you feel a certain way, such as this person got sick?
Well, also, like he could have been so scared, which made him sick too. You know what I mean? Like the fear, the adrenaline, and then it made
I don't know. I mean, everybody reacts differently, but I've never heard of people throwing up because they were scared. I've heard them doing it later after they started to calm down and have the crash. You know what I mean? And then they'll do that. But I've never heard them in that moment, but I have heard of them, like if they saw something that didn't, how should I say, something disgusting? Should I say something disgusting? And that's how I'm going to put it. I've seen them do that too.
Right.
But an overwhelming a feeling of dread, like that it makes you sick to your stomach, that you just you don't want to do this, you don't want to do this, or you don't want to feel this way. That can make you be sick for sure.
Right. I agree. Wholeheartedly agree. So I think he could have been zapped.
I'm thinking that they can project emotions on people, and they're not necessarily happy and joyful.
Right.
That's not what it's here to do.
Right. No, I agree.
Like I said, it's not his job. It's not the job of the Mothman to make us feel happy and giddy.
Yeah. So this is interesting too. Mike Turner says, I believe Jody Cook said that not far from the TNT bunkers, a woman saw an upright wolf creature walking along the street across from her house, and neighbors. Oh my God, my cat just scared me. A wolf-like creature walking across the street from her house, and neighbors saw it as well. Yeah. So there you go.
Again, there are so many stories coming out of there. I mean, a dog man could have possibly popped out of there. But then again, here we go talking about toxic things in the air, in the soil, in the water, in and around this bunker area.
Yeah.
Now, if you take Chernobyl, let's just take the whole meltdown incident. They're talking about some animals are now coming back and returning to the area, the surrounding area. Not
people in chat were talking about that too.
Yeah.
Yes.
But they're having like severe mutations.
Mm-hmm.
They're not the same. So I don't know. That just brings up another question about it. What is really happening here?
Right. I agree. Crazy. Okay.
It is. It's so crazy. I'm sitting here going, oh my goodness.
Yep. I have two more. we have two more here to talk about.
Yeah, because like I said, this thing is too it's too much heaven and hell for me. I don't believe I don't believe there's a cryptid influence whatsoever. It's so here and here, but I don't know where to classify it. Because it shows up when bad stuff is going to happen. So but everybody who perishes at the time doesn't go to hell, right?
Right.
I mean, they could go to heaven too. I mean, could this be more like, I don't know, the Grim Reaper to come collect them? Could this be it? I don't know.
Yep. It's crazy, huh? And for your mind, you're quite welcome. My cat just, when I jumped. I got the lights on in here, and I've got well, Brandy knows, I've got a big sliding glass door, big windows out the back.
And it's dark out there.
It's super dark. However, there's those big crunchy June bugs, and they're hitting my door, my glass door. Well, the cat jumped up to them.
Oh,
yeah, it made me jump. So that's
you are, yeah. When you're not seeing the cat, when they're doing their little prowl thing, waiting to jump,
right.
Doing the little bouncy, I'm gonna attack mode.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't see that because I'm sitting at the table. So yeah, so you're quite welcome, Free. And he's doing it again.
Well, at least now you know what it is.
At least he's not meowing though, right, guys? So we'll let him chase.
Right.
The bugs.
Right.
So anyway, let's see. There is more here. So, okay, now I might not pronounce this correctly, but we're going to go with it.
Okay.
So, a region in southeastern China was plagued with the sightings of a figure that resembled the Mothman in early January 1926. So we're going almost 100 years ago.
Right.
Dubbed by locals as the man dragon, the shadowy, ominous figure was seen hovering above the Xi'an Tay Dam. Then disaster hit the surrounding farming villages in the form of 40 billion gallons of water. The dam collapsed, resulting in the deaths of 15,000 people.
Wow.
That was 1926.
See, I've never heard that story.
Me either. Yeah.
And I don't know about anybody else, but if the dam is above me, I'm not going to live below it. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Common sense would tell you don't do that.
Yeah.
Wow, I've never heard of that. But they're again giving the same type of account of everything that we're hearing from different places. And like, this is not just happening in the United States. This is happening all over the world.
Right. Yeah. So I find that interesting. And look how long ago that goes back. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm
yeah, 1926. And here's the last one we can talk about. And I find this one interesting. It says, some believe the large, hairy, red-eyed creature the people of La Huanta, Mexico began to see stalking in the area in 2009 was the legendary Mothman. The sightings occurred around the time leading up to the 2009 swine flu outbreak in Mexico. Two witnesses, Angela Menendez and Viviana Ledzima, experienced pure terror as they heard the creature's screeches emanating out of an apple orchard near a cemetery. A student who requested to remain anonymous reported the Mothman chasing him for 15 minutes on the night of March 6, 2009. Despite the best efforts of local authorities to hunt down the entity, no traces of it were found.
Yep, I remember that. They closed the border.
Of the bird flu?
Swine flu.
Swine flu.
Yeah. Yeah, they closed the border. They wouldn't let them go through until they figured out how to contain it. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I remember. There were so many.
Mm-hmm.
So many people had died from that, and it was just.
Yeah, it was
A
awful.
lot of it was just totally unnecessary too. It was just unnecessary passings because of that swine flu. Just a lot of people just didn't have access to medical care. That
Yeah.
was the problem.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just, man, there's just a lot. Like, I think it is, I definitely agree with you. I think it is some sort of angel of death. And I think it's warning. It's like take heed, especially when it's, seen in these big cities and, I mean, these are huge disasters. It's not just a little thing. These are
No.
huge things that happen.
Right. These are the
No.
huge these are the huge stories that are getting more press, that are being passed around more than just
Yeah.
I saw a Mothman and then, a house fell in a sinkhole and killed 3 people. That'll make a little bit of news, but it won't be like the
Major.
bridge fell. Yeah, like the bridge fell. That's not
Chernobyl,
right.
911. Yeah.
Exactly. So I mean, we have to take an account of we're getting experiences from over 100 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that these things have been seen
Mm-hmm.
for at least 100 years.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it's been longer.
Mm-hmm.
They may come in different shapes and different forms and may not be as scary looking, or who knows, they may be scarier, who knows.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're here to harm. I think they're here as a warning.
Yeah. You think it's a warning?
I think it's a warning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Werewolf says so, a harbinger of death.
Exactly. That's pretty much what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I just, yeah, it's not something I would want to see. And
I wouldn't.
Let's say this. Let's say this. Oh, because all of these that we've talked about tonight have been, they say the creature was 6-7 feet tall, like a full size, a grown one. However, the one that our friend saw was a little one, 3 to 4 feet. So maybe, I don't know. I'm just
a juvenile.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's hard to say, but I mean, what would you do if you saw one of these things?
Mm-hmm.
You basically know and feel the way I feel. You think that it's the warning coming. Here it is. Here's your warning. There's the Mothman. What would you do?
Right.
I don't know what I would do because
What
honestly,
would you do, though? I mean, except like pray, I guess.
I mean, you could.
Happens.
I mean, I'd be praying, trying to figure out where I'm going to go because I mean, when this thing shows up, usually it's whatever's going to happen is happening within that specific area.
Right.
You know what I mean? But what if I'm like, okay, so I'm going to pack up and I'm going to go on a vacation for about a month till this passes. I'm going to go on vacation for a month. And then the actual problem is that he's warning of, again, a bridge that falls or, a 100-car pileup on the interstate or you never know. But this is what I'm saying. What do you do? What do you do? I mean, it may show up like a major earthquake when this whole place, falls in. What do you do?
Yeah.
I'm with you, Krista. I think praying would be my number one weapon.
Absolutely. Jojo asked, any reports of missing time associated with Mothman sightings? Not that I'm aware of.
I haven't heard that. Now, weird things associated with it, absolutely.
So what do you think the screeching is? Like, it just, like, is it to scare or is it,
I think it's just, I just think that it's its call, it's just kind of like, the call of a siren or it's just their call. This is what's happening. It screeches. It's letting you know, hey, this is what's going to happen. I'm here to tell you.
Yeah.
That's just the way it does. I mean, I don't, like I said, I don't think it's menacing. I don't think it's here to hurt anything or anyone.
Hey, let's listen to this. Lovey Ludd says, thank you, Amy. You're the only one who's ever asked. Haha. Well, I think about wordplay, and the person that warned a townsperson to the upcoming disaster could have been meaning in dread cold. It's food for thought.
Possibly.
Yeah. And Smurfy says, what if we are overthinking it and it's just some random entity that just wants to have first row seat to the show? Possibly.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe so. But then there was the one instance of the account of the encounter of the, was it miners? Was it the miners? Where it saved them.
Yeah. Yeah, it saved them. So,
JD Smooth says, Brandy, you hope it doesn't show up in your backyard. You are absolutely correct, sir.
Right.
But if it does, everybody's welcome to my house. We're going to have a prayer session right here because there's nowhere to go.
Yeah. Chris says, screeching possibly similar to the warning scream of the banshee.
Possibly. Because we all know that the banshee is not bad. It really isn't, because it haunts the prominent Irish families from Ireland, okay, and still haunts them to this day. And what it does is it basically is a family member who has passed and follows them and warns them of bad things to come by wailing and crying and doing all this stuff. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just kind of like, hey, this is what's happening. Yeah. You know, and I mean, sometimes it ends up bad, but then other times it's just a warning of things to come. So, you know, a banshee, it gets a bad rap. Really does. Banshee gets a bad rap.
Little Patty says maybe the miners were saved because the miners heeded the warning.
Bingo. Bingo. But how many of us do, really, honestly? If we see a creature like that, most of us, the non-believers, let's just the non-believers, how many of them would not talk to anybody about seeing this creature for ridicule? They're afraid of ridicule.
Right. So they wouldn't say anything.
They wouldn't. I mean, today, with everything on TV, what's going on in the news, I think we're more apt to come out about it because it's not so taboo anymore to talk about it. I mean, I see things all over the place, you know, about haunted things on like Fox News, CNN, you know, all kinds of stuff of they're putting the stuff on these channels. Right. So I think people are more apt to talk about it now than they ever have been in past years. I think that if it were to come back in any time soon, I'm sure we would hear about it globally. Right. Honestly.
Smurfy says, rarely do people get warnings. I want to know why they did. That's a good question. I want to know too.
Yeah. Why did they get lucky?
Yeah. Is it luck?
Or is it because they have a love of the land, that they take care of things, that they're not, you know, I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know either. All I know is I do not want to see a Mothman.
I don't either. Like I said, I don't either. But again, if it lands in my backyard, everybody's welcome over. We're going to have cookies and tea and prayer. Backyard. I'll meet you there. That's what we're doing, people. You know, like I said, I don't know. Now I live very, very close to the Mississippi River, which is the Mississippi Bridge. There are so many bridges around me. there's so many rivers and all
Yeah.
of these things around me. I'd be afraid of the bridge thing anyway. But then again, you got to think about all the other natural disasters that could happen here. We've got tornadoes and we've got earthquakes and we've got all kinds of things here that it could be any one of them. Any one of them.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Well, this has been interesting. I like this topic. We, after doing this show for 2 years, we've never talked about this topic.
And we should start talking about these topics a lot more because, again, knowledge is power. We always talk about that. Knowledge is power. And I don't know a whole lot, but I mean, it's always nice to learn things from everybody when we're all using this as kind of a group discussion and not a Kristen Brandy discussion. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Absolutely.
it always helps me learn new things.
Me too.
And that helps, because like I said, Mothman shows up. I've already got it covered. We got a date, everybody.
There you go. JD Smooth makes a point here, and I do remember hearing about this. What about the couple who went looking for the Mothman and was haunted by it? Do you remember hearing about that? They ended up taking home like an attachment or something, and they say it was because I think they went to the mines looking for this creature.
Oh.
And they ended up taking an attachment back. So was it a ghost? And I don't remember the story, or did it have something to do with the Mothman? But I do remember that. I remember that. Yeah.
I'm thinking it was an attachment.
Yeah, I think it could have been a more along on the ghost side of things,
I think so too. I think so too. Because I know better than a lot of people, you can run into it and not even realize. So could that have happened to them? They were looking for Mothman and got an attachment? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Because like I said, I believe that the Mothman is on the spiritual side of things versus cryptid side.
Right. Absolutely. And then, yes, Murphy says, yikes, when you go looking for trouble, you go and find it. That's right.
That's right. Absolutely. You're going to go look for Mothman? Well, it kind of serves you right.
Werewolf says we're in dangerous times. We need to pay attention to warnings. Absolutely.
I believe that 100%. And, it just keeps getting scarier and scarier every day. So I'm surprised that the Mothman sightings are not picking up at this point, because...
Jose says, overall with the Mothman, I believe it's both angel and a demon. Even though it's a superb flyer, it's not good at walking. And several people had mentioned that it wasn't good at walking.
Well, you could be absolutely right.
Yeah.
And like I said, I don't know what it's doing here specifically, but I know that every time it shows up, it's bad news.
Right. Absolutely it is.
And it keeps showing up ahead of time.
It does. So maybe it is a warning, need a warning. So I don't know, just interesting stuff,
I would like to learn more about it, but like I said, all we've got is stories.
We need to make a trip to go see the statue and, and that's over your 9-hour trip driving, but we need to do it in like a 2-day trip or something.
We'd have to do it in like 5 days, because if I got all the way over there's so many more things that I'd want to see. I wouldn't want to come back right away.
That's okay. We can do that.
Yeah, there's just so much more I want to see if I'm going to go that way. I don't know. I believe that I would be scared to death. I think this is one of the things that would really shake me and get me in my core if I were to see one of these things. Yeah. Only because, like I said, I know what I think it is. And I would be afraid that, everything that I knew in this life would be ended. That, ended. Even if I survived, my life would be changed forever. So, no, I don't want to see it.
Yeah, I don't either. I'm going to write this down, what little Patty says. Google Chief Cornstalk Curse. I'll write that down because I'm going to do that. The way I have it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I know. I think we should talk about curses sometimes. Life, these stories that we're getting about curses and people being cursed and how it happened, and I really think that we need to discuss these things. Again, if somebody cursed me, then I'd seriously have to go find help.
Yeah.
I couldn't deal with it myself. Absolutely not. I couldn't.
No, me either. We'll do a show on that on upcoming. We decided that our Thursday night shows, starting I think it's September 12th, we're gonna do just Thursday night shows with guests, and then our Friday night shows you guys are stuck with just Brandy and I and whoever from the porch wants to hop on with us. So
right, exactly. So it's just going to be fun. I mean, we love to have our guests and things like that, and we may have a guest panel, but we're not gonna have guests on just to talk about them on Friday nights, because I want to learn a lot, and I can't really pay attention to chat and what everybody's saying and learning if I'm paying attention to my guests. So we're kind of having to split that time a little bit so we can participate with the chat on one night, and then we are with our guests the other night. So I think it was a good idea. We'll see how it works out.
Chris Nichols says Seth Breedlove from Small Town Monsters has a great show on this subject and folklore on YouTube. Actually, Chris, we actually had Seth Breedlove on our show, and we've had Heather Mosier several times, and we have her scheduled again to come on. So,
and we had Alex on too.
We had Alex Petticoff. Yeah, we're big fans of Small Town Monsters. And Lyle Blackburn's done a lot with Small Town Monsters. We've had him on the show. So, yeah.
Maybe we can get them back on. I mean, maybe we can talk to Seth and see if he'll come on and talk about that sort of thing with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, interesting. So this has been definitely an interesting topic of conversation. Oh, I got one. I start a question here. Brandy, this is for you. It says, does Brandy part her hair in the middle and the front for that dual pony braid? I'm a side part gal and it's not budging. Love you, love.
Okay, so here's how I do it. My hair is super, super curly. Okay, it is like
it's very curly,
massive.
Yes.
Okay, so what I have to do is I have to wet it down and then make my part, and then I have to braid it when it's wet, because if I try to braid it when it's dry, it ain't gonna work. But if I'm wearing my hair down and not in braids, it's always in a side part. It doesn't go down the middle ever. But when it's wet and I do the braids, I got to do it down the middle. Otherwise, it's not going to make any sense.
Yeah.
It's got to rebel.
Rebel.
Yeah.
Real quick.
Sometimes my hair will tell you exactly how I'm feeling without me saying a word. Absolutely. It'll tell you. It'll be like, oh, don't mess with her today.
Right? No. T-Bone, we want to thank you for the memberships.
Thank you, T-Bone.
And Mike Seller, welcome.
Absolutely.
Member. So we definitely appreciate that. And I'm going to actually try at some point this weekend to go live. I am going to be down in Greenville, Missouri, and that's where Pancho Zorch, who is in chat, had his Dogman encounter. So I might go snooping myself down there, and
we're gonna try it out. We're gonna see, if we can even make that happen. We do have storms that are scheduled to come into our area starting tomorrow and into Saturday. So if it's not a muddy mess, we're gonna try it, because actually it's only 40 miles from me.
Yeah. Yep. And honestly, if it doesn't work out this weekend, then I do want to, I've told Pancho that Brandy and I would definitely love to meet up with him and go to the area where he had his Dogman encounter.
Right. Sure. And I do have friends that are also friends with the Corps of Engineers in that area, so they perhaps can get us a spot in the fall to just hang out there and maybe camp overnight or something.
Right.
Just to see what we can get out of it.
Yeah. Yep. And then, like we said earlier in the show, tomorrow night, you have the balds and the beards taking over the show.
The balds and the beards.
Yep. Brandy and I have kids stuff. We're going to be at football games tomorrow night. So fun. And then Saturday, tune in Paranormal Paul, and Brandy is taking my place, filling in for me on Saturday night, co-hosting. And then that evening is BMR. And and then Sunday you have Truth or Tinfoil, right?
Yes, Truth or Tinfoil on Sunday, 5 p.m. Eastern. If y'all haven't even checked it out, make sure you check out the new show that is airing on the Blondes and Booze channel. It's called Paranormal Show and Tell. And if you missed last night's show, it was fantastic. We got into the Amityville house, and everybody talks about the haunting and the Lutz family and all of that. But we went to the Defoe family. We started from the very beginning, and we discussed that family and what happened, and dove deep into all of the sides and how crazy that family was from the get-go, people. Yeah. So,
yeah. And somebody had asked earlier, they had commented on your show last night. That's actually Brandy's show that you started with the guys. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, like I said, we started that show only because, Randy Gilbert and I do Truth or Tinfoil on Sundays at 5 p.m. Central. Well, that is more on the scientific evidence type of thing. We're trying to pick it apart, see if it's real, if it's been, tampered with, blah, blah, blah. But I wanted to take those same type of things, but I wanted to talk about the stories behind them. I don't want to talk about the scientific stuff. I want to get into the nitty gritty of it. It's like, why was this taken? Why did they say this place is haunted? Right. What really happened there? Who are these people haunting it? And that's the stuff that we're getting into with these pictures and everything. So it's really, really a great show. I have some great co-hosts, and it's just fabulous.
We're having a great time too about that show. That, like, the four of you, and all four of you have different personalities. Yes. So you all have different opinions of what things could be. So anyway, it's that is Brandy's show, and but she's just streaming through Blondes and Booze. So Blondes and Booze has another show now added on Wednesday evenings at 7 p.m. Central.
Right. I thought I'd bring it to the best subscribers in the whole wide world. So
there you go. There you go. So, but we definitely appreciate each and every one of you guys tuning in. And next week, we don't have any guests, but the week after that, on that Thursday night, we have Bradbury Kling, the Kling brothers from Ghost Lab.
Fantastic.
Awesome. They're good friends of ours, and it'll be a fun show. So, and later this month, we also have what's going to be another fun show, and that's Josh Hurd and Johnny Hauser. That's gonna be
my gosh. Malvern Manor meets Villisca Axe Murder House. This is going to be fantastic.
Yeah, so that'll be good. And we got Heather Mosier. I think I've got Sir Brian Bowden. I got Christopher Garantano, Dennis Carroll. I'm sorry if I miss anybody, but I've just got a bunch of people lined up. So it's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be a great time. So make sure everybody just...
And there's my cat crawling up the wall. I don't know why.
Right. But just make sure you hit that notification bell and make sure that you're well aware of whenever Blondes and Booze shows come on, because they do come on at different times. So make sure you're aware. And that's all I got.
Yep, me too. And like I said, please tune in tomorrow night and watch the guys. And we will see you all late. Oh, tune in to Monica. Her show is right after this at 10 o'clock.
Our Paranormal World. She's right on at 10 o'clock. So.
Yep. All right. See y'all later. Good night.
Good night, everybody.